Hello and welcome to the Boy Time Podcast. I am your host, Alejandro Jodorowski. As always, I'm joined by Babby.
Yeah.
Today it is Acid Western Week on the Boy Time Podcast as part of our Desert Marathon, everybody's favorite part of the show. But we have a couple of things, maybe a couple of things to talk about. There has been some discussion online based on the live action Avatar show. I don't know if you have seen this. I think it was only really a thing today, as of us recording it.
I've seen something about it.
That basically, I think some of the actors were doing press junkets for the show coming out. I think this end of this week or something. And they basically said that the creators of the show, I don't know if this was pre or post the Konietzko and DiMartino leaving, the original Avatar creators, but they decided to go and make Sokka not sexist in the beginning of the show.
You've ruined it already.
Yep, that's the whole point, and I I think it's kind of funny because in H Bomber Guy's review of Ruby, he brings up that aspect of Sokka's character as being like, it's like, I didn't think I'd like Sokka at first because he seems kind of annoying and chauvinistic, but then over the course of the show, you know, he learns to overcome that part of his life and really that culture, because it's like the Water Tribe really just doesn't think that women are capable of being warriors, kind of the whole thing. So taking that away, it kind of pulls any real world punch that aspect of the show had. So kind of bad move, in my humble opinion. But I'm not going to watch this show anyways.
Exactly.
But that was kind of like any like part of me that was like, oh, maybe I'll check it out. It was kind of like, oh, okay. They don't care about keeping the original themes and whatever that the original show was going to do. Just seems like that got thrown out the window. So I don't care, but I don't know, kind of interesting, I guess. Also, I watched the first season of True Detective. It's really good. I don't feel like I have to say that because it is regarded as one of the best seasons of television. But it is. I don't even know really what to say about it that hasn't already been said. I was trying to get into it because the new season is coming out and has Jodie Foster in it, and I like Jodie Foster. I love her enough. I would shoot Ronald Reagan, frankly.
I would do that.
I would do that if Jodie Foster wasn't paying attention, but especially if Jodie Foster was. Although I have seen some weird things about this new season. Apparently they're using AI art. It's weird. Not to the level that like Marvel was doing in like Secret Invasion, where like the whole title sequence was AI. I think they just like needed posters, and instead of hiring someone to design a poster, they just AI'd it and then printed it out, had it as set dressing. Bad decision, but that's literally the only thing I've seen about this new season of True Detective. I don't know if I'm going to watch any of the other ones just because this seems so weird and singular. I know it's an anthology, so don't need to. But this first one is so dark and depressing, and it really shows cops as horrible, which I guess is good. Although, like Matthew McConaughey is like the lead. He's kind of a co-lead. Him and Woody Harrelson are partners, and they're trying to track down this serial killer. And it is like messed up. Like, I don't even really want to go into it. I don't know. I think you would like it because it's kind of like The Wire if it was more critical of the police. I think it's
That was my
interesting.
one complaint of the show. So
Yeah, yeah, because it's a really good mystery kind of thing. I love those type of investigation type things. So I was kind of hooked. But yeah, it gets a little iffy. And I guess this was coming off of Fargo season 5, where I'm like, wow, that was dark. And then this show, it's kind of a 1-2 punch. Like, I really need something light now because those two things are so, yeah, they're so gross. But yeah, if you haven't seen True Detective season 1, I would highly recommend it. I don't know if I would say it's one of the best seasons of TV of all time. It has that reputation, but I did really like it. But Matthew McConaughey is like playing way against type. So don't go in like expecting like, I don't know, like Interstellar Matthew McConaughey.
Right.
Yeah, he's not like a cool guy. He's like a weirdo nihilist. Uh, I don't really know how to describe him, but it's just like Woody Harrelson is like this awful, terrible guy who's like cheating on his wife and is just like horrible. He's kind of like Hank from Breaking Bad, if Hank wasn't faithful, I guess. Hank never cheated on Murray, but
Never.
no, not that we ever saw.
My king.
I love Hank. But yeah, it's just like Woody Harrelson's just like cop guy, and he's like, "Hey, Matthew McConaughey, do you think that you could love two women at the same time?" And then Matthew McConaughey's like, "I don't think man is capable of love." It's just like, "Shut up, you suck." But it's also kind of fun to watch because he's just always that. He's just always the worst. And it's kind of unbelievable that Woody Harrelson and him would become friends, but also, partners.
We're in this together.
Yeah, I know the cops, they love having partnerships unless it's romantic. They like platonic male partnerships.
Bromances, if you will.
Romances, yeah. It's very romantic in True Detective. There's a scene where they cover up a murder.
Ooh,
It's very fun.
that's cute.
Yeah, it's very, very cute. It's it's so it's so messed up. It's just like they find one of like the suspects and they have him like handcuffed, and then Matthew McConaughey's like interrogating him, and then Woody Harrelson goes in the back room and sees that there were two children that were being abused, like behind a door, and then he just walks out and shoots the guy in the back of the head. So then they have to like cover up and like,
Respect.
yeah. I was like, okay, that guy probably deserved it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm for police brutality if it's that guy specifically.
Yeah. We just did a whole Disco Elysium chat about being a cop, so I feel
That's
like
true.
a lot of this is
That's true. There's a little bit of overlap.
yeah.
I didn't plan for that. I was just watching. I just saw that there was Jodie Foster, and then I'm like, I should watch season 1. So I don't even know if I'm going to watch the Jodie Foster one. I just saw that she was there, and I just watched Silence of the Lambs. And I'm like, oh, she's a detective again? Okay.
All right.
But I think this one takes place in Alaska, which is
Good
interesting.
old Alaska.
Yeah, everyone loves Alaska. But yeah, that's True Detective season 1. Check it out or don't. I don't care. Do what you want. Okay, now on to the Desert Marathon. I think that's it for stuff that happened this week. And unfortunately, I have to apologize to everybody because I didn't watch El Topo because I tried to watch it. I thought I had a link on YouTube, and then I started watching it, and it didn't have English subtitles, and it is a Mexican movie. so I didn't get
You
a
didn't
chance.
learn Spanish just
I,
to watch it.
I didn't learn Spanish, and currently I am poor, and the only options were to buy it, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy it for $15 because I don't even know if I'm going to like it. But I do want to say, of all of these movies, because this is the Acid Western week, El Topo should have been the one I watched, because I haven't done a whole lot of research on acid westerns, but El Topo is by Alejandro Jodorowski, who is like the acid western guy. Like when you think of acid westerns, it is Alejandro Jodorowski, and I didn't watch any of his movies for this week. So that's why I have to be like, I'm sorry. This is the one that I should have watched, but I didn't. Also, I started watching El Topo, and it starts with like a naked 8-year-old, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want to see that. How is this on YouTube? It's so weird.
Educational.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. I couldn't understand what was going on. I'm like, why is this kid
true.
naked? I don't know, but yeah, so I don't know why that's on YouTube, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But I was like, that's it seems a little iffy. But so besides the El Topo shaped elephant in the room, I did watch The Shooting and Dead Man, and I think the problem with El Topo is that it just didn't have any star power. You know, these movies are full of star power, and you know me, I either gotta be a Hollywood star in a movie, otherwise I don't care. You know, I wouldn't have watched True Detective if I didn't see Jodie Foster's face on HBO Max. You know, I wouldn't have done it. I don't even care about Matthew McConaughey or Woody Harrelson. I mean, I like Cheers as much as the next guy, but like, he's no movie star. But, you know, The Shooting has hit movie star Jack Nicholson in it. And I love Jack Nicholson. He was in the Batman movie as the Joker. Remember?
I do remember that.
Remember that he was in that? But The Shooting is it's very different because it's a Western, and Jack Nicholson is not usually in those. But it is a very young Jack Nicholson. I would say like right, maybe during or right after his work with Roger Corman, who, if you don't know who Roger Corman is, look at his IMDb. He probably has over 1,300 movies that he made because he's a crazy person. But like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, this guy was producing, you know, one movie a week or something. Absolutely nuts. But that's how Jack Nicholson got his start. He's in the original Little Shop of Horrors before the Rick Moranis one. It was a Roger Corman movie in the 60s, and that had Jack Nicholson in it. Fun fact. There you go. But this is after that, I think, because it's produced by Jack Nicholson, and then Jack Nicholson is like a side character in it. But I was expecting it to be a whole lot more trippy. I mean, it's called an acid western. I thought that you know, I went into this movie expecting something, and I got something very different. Because The Shooting is a pretty straightforward western, I would say. It actually has a lot in common with True Grit. I haven't seen the original. I've only seen the Coen Brothers one, and I refuse to see the original because it has John Wayne in it. Ooh.
I'm John Wayne.
I'm John Wayne. Even though it does have John Wayne in an eye patch, and that's pretty cool. Anytime you can wear an eye patch in a movie, I think that's a plus. Although, I will say, I prefer Jeff Bridges in an eye patch, which was in True Grit, which I think is okay. I thought that movie was fine.
I just prefer Jeff Bridges in general.
Well, that's true. That is true. Jeff Bridges and the Coen brothers are great together. I know that because of the Big Lebowski.
And so does everyone else.
That's yeah. I did see that Jeff Bridges did an interview, and he's like, if people just remember me as the dude, that's fine. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Respect.
I respect that. Yeah, that's great. But I'm going to remember Jack Nicholson from The Shooting. If I ever see Jack Nicholson in real life, I'm going to be like, yo, I loved The Shooting, man.
You're
That
gonna
was
be like,
awesome.
who says that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen The Shining and like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I've seen those movies, but what I loved you in was The Shooting. Come on. You were playing a bounty hunter guy that was in
I
the.
love bounty
I
hunters.
love the bounty hunters. Yeah, he's the bad guy, which I know. Jack Nicholson is the bad guy in a movie? Who would have thought it?
What?
That's never happened
He's
before.
got such a cute face, though.
I know. Man, I miss Jack Nicholson. Where is he?
California. I don't know.
Probably.
Where's he live?
I don't know. I know that he goes to what's the Philadelphia football team? The Eagles. He goes to Eagles games
Birds.
with Go Birds with Danny DeVito and Rob McElhenney. I don't know why it's those three. Well, I know why Danny DeVito and Rob McElhenney would be going,
No, yeah.
but I don't know why Jack Nicholson is there. But I guess he and Danny DeVito are friends. That's the only thing I know about Jack Nicholson. Hopefully he's not a terrible person in real life. I don't know. Seems kind of weird. But in The Shooting, it's just this guy. There's this guy, and he's like an ex-bounty hunter, and he kind of retired from that life to go mining because he wanted a quiet life. So he and his brother and a couple dudes, they moved out west and started panning for gold. But when he gets there, I guess he did like I don't know, he was gone for a while, then he came back. One of the guys was killed. His brother was gone. And the other guy was like paranoid and he was going to shoot him, but he was about to shooting him. But he didn't end up doing I don't know why it's called The Shooting, if I'm being honest. Although all of these Westerns have just terrible names.
Provocative.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, it's just like, and then this lady shows up and the lady is like, hey, I need help finding somebody and you're an ex-bounty hunter, so why don't you help me and bring your little ditzy friend with you? And he's like, okay, I will do that. So then the movie is just them, trying to find this guy. And then Jack Nicholson shows up and it's a big twist because she hired Jack Nicholson to also help, but he was just kind of like following from a distance. And then he gets too close and then they find him and they're like, no, don't shoot him. He's Jack Nicholson. He's an American treasure. Please don't kill him yet. And so then, like, okay, Jack Nicholson, you come with us. But yeah, it's just a lot of people riding around in the desert and having fun, I guess. Spoilers for The Shooting. I know it's a movie that everyone's talking about, but the man that she was trying to track down, could you believe it? It was the brother who went missing the whole time. And so the end of the movie is she kills his brother, and then the guy's like, coin, because that's the guy's name. And then it like slows down to like 1 frame a second as he's like falling to the ground, and then it just cuts to credits as Jack Nicholson is walking away. It's a great movie. I don't know. I thought it was fine for what it was. Not as trippy as I would have thought, I don't know enough about acid westerns. Frankly, I don't know if anyone does, because I went on YouTube to like search videos about acid westerns and nothing came up except for a bunch of like AI bros a year ago, like saying, what if The Mandalorian was an acid western? Hashtag Jodorowski, hashtag Midsummer, or not Midsummer, Midjourney. Midsummer. What if Midsummer was an acid western? That's something
That'd
I
be
would watch.
crazy.
That would be nuts. That was all that came up when I searched acid westerns, was like weirdo AI generated, what if Lord of the Rings looked like Wes Anderson or whatever. That type of content. Like nothing came up. It was so weird. Like this is a genre of movie, right? Like this isn't just something I came up with. This is a thing. And so, yeah, I don't know much about it. Except that Jodorowski's the guy. So other than that, I don't know. Sorry. But I will say that the second one was more trippy, called Dead Man. And oh boy, I should have pulled up the IMDb before we started because it has an all star cast. Well, first of all, it stars Johnny Depp. And you know I love that sniveling little weasel of a man. But it also has big stars like Billy Bob Thornton and Crispin Glover and Robert Mitchum and Alfred Molina and Iggy Pop. You can't forget Iggy Pop. Yeah, a bunch of like those types. They're kind of like character actors, kind of. And plus, all the music was done by Neil Young. Isn't that nice? Every Western should have music composed by Neil Young, in my humble opinion. But I will say, this movie, yes, has music composed by Neil Young. It is the least Neil Young stuff I have ever heard. Frankly, not super well versed on Neil Young. I love his stuff on Harvest and Harvest Moon. 2 different albums, 20 years apart. But this is like all noisy guitars and like electric noise. I'm like, this is why'd you get Neil Young to do this? I feel like there maybe would have been some better artists to choose, but I'm obviously not a judge on that. Maybe if you listen to the soundtrack, you would be a better judge, but I don't know enough about that genre.
You run a music channel.
Well, I don't know noise. Like, that's not my area of expertise.
That's my lane.
That's what I'm saying. But so I assume it's done well. It's just not for me. I mean, Neil Young is a very talented musician. But yeah, it's kind of is there, I guess maybe like Dante's Inferno might be what this movie's going for. It felt very mythological. And I will say that this movie does feel like if David Lynch made a Western. Technically, he did. It's a short film, because I looked it up. Like, did David Lynch make a Western? He did. A short film in like the 80s, I think. But I haven't seen it.
Yeehaw, cowboy.
I hope he's in it. I'm looking for a man. Hopefully you can help me. I'm a bounty hunter.
When that clock strikes noon,
I'll meet you out front. I love David Lynch.
that's my favorite.
Yeah, me too. So that was more what I was expecting. I was expecting more of like a surrealist, that type of movie just set in the Wild West. And that's what this movie is. Interestingly enough, it starts as Johnny Depp is like an accountant, and he's basically moving from Cleveland to Machine. I don't think they ever state ever say what state it is. I guess you could say what state. They never state what state it is. Ha. But he's coming from Cleveland, Ohio to the West. I guess you could just say the West. And he's basically been guaranteed a job by, I think, some logging company or some sort of industry. But when he gets there, he's basically 2 months late, and they already filled his position. And so, he's basically spent all of his money getting out there. His parents just died, which was why he was delayed. And so he's basically penniless, living on the street with no job, and he's sad. But then he finds a lady, and the lady is like, "Oh, walk me home. Ooh, you're so attractive, Johnny Depp from the 90s." And then they go home and they bang, and then her fiance comes home, and he tries to kill Johnny Depp, but the lady jumps in front, takes the bullet for him, and while that happens, Johnny Depp pulls out a gun and shoots the guy, kills him dead. But the lady, I don't know how powerful the gun that the fiance had, but it shoots through her chest and hits Johnny Depp in the heart. The bullet is lodged in his heart, and so, but he's still alive, kind of. I guess that's the debate. The great debate from this movie. I don't think it's a debate, but it's just then he like he gets his stuff and then he like crawls out the window, falls off a story, and then it cuts to black. And then he wakes up, and then there's a Native American guy, and he is like cutting the bullet out of his heart. And he's like, actually, it's too far in there. I can't get it. So you're just going to have that in there forever. And so the movie is, I mean, he's a dead man. I think it's very like allegorical. It's like he's in this like weirdo limbo purgatory where he's like, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to be talking about movies like this, but he's most of it is just him kind of riding around on his horse, and then he like comes across some people, and like here's the one thing I was able to kind of like discern from this, because it kind of became a thing where like every person he ran into was asking if he had tobacco, and he's like, I don't smoke. And that was like every single person was like, hey, who are you? Do you have tobacco? And I'm like, okay, let me look this up because I'm sure that this has some sort of meaning in terms of like maybe like a Native American death ritual having something to do with tobacco. And it turns out that is a very common thing across a bunch of Native American tribes that have maybe like you are buried with tobacco as some sort of like offering to like their next life or something like that. I'm overgeneralizing here, but there's a bunch of this. I'm like, okay, that's kind of what they're going for. This is like he's dead, and basically these are like spirits that he's finding in this kind of in between, and they're all kind of like shady people. Like he comes across some fur trappers, and they're kind of, I think they're alluded to be cannibals, but he ends up killing them. And then he comes across some marshals, and then he kills them. Police are bad. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but they're in limbo, so they're probably weirdo bad people. Then he comes across Alfred Molina, who is Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, and he is the shopkeeper, and he is like, hey, I don't like your Native American friend. I'm like, oh, and then he just kills him. So it's pretty cool. He just basically kills a bunch of people, and then at the end, he is like, he's pushed off in a canoe by the Native American fella. His name is Nobody. Pretty sick.
Fire.
Just an aside. And he's pushed off, and he has some tobacco on him. He's in like a canoe, and he's laying down and kind of like maybe a traditional European death pose, with like the arms crossed around his chest, and then he's holding like some tobacco. I don't even know. It's like old timey where it's like tied in a knot. So he has like this knot of tobacco in him, and he's being pushed into the sea in a canoe. And it's like, okay. And Nobody is basically like, you're going to be entering a new world, and this world will no longer be any of your concern. And he shoves him off in a canoe, and that's how it ends. And so I don't know if you're supposed to be like guessing the whole time whether or not he's alive or dead. But the whole time I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, I don't know. I think too, on like a filmmaking perspective, I wasn't paying attention, but I think the beginning before he gets shot is all like hard cuts, and then after that it's all fade to black and then fade out of black, which I think is an indication of some sort of like dreaminess and like disconnected, sense of time. There's like basically no sense of time, and it's also weird because his heart wound never heals, and like seasons pass, so it's like what's happening here. I don't know. It's a very, very interesting movie. I think it is. I probably should watch it again because I definitely didn't get it all the first time, but I don't know. I just thought it was really well done. And also, yeah, I'd already talked about the score being all electronic guitar, noisy kind of stuff. Like it does, a lot of the shots are just like him riding a horse through the forest, and it's just like this loud electric noise. And that was the most David Lynchian thing ever. Like Eraserhead, it is so hard to hear what everyone is saying because there is just constant like electrical metallic banging going on in the background of every single second of Eraserhead. Like it was like overstimulating when I first watched Eraserhead. I need to watch it again, but I was just overwhelmed and I was like, I don't understand what's happening and it's so loud. And that's kind of the vibe I got here, but it was more it was more palatable, I guess. It was easier to kind of comprehend what was going on, which may be a downside to some people, but I liked it. So that's Dead Man. And then, yeah, this is the part where I would talk about El Topo, but that is not happening. So sorry about that. But next week we're getting out of the wild, wild west.
Oh,
I know. I do like westerns. I should say that. Like the western aesthetic is like my favorite thing ever.
in real life, I hate it, but like, you know, in art, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I love western games and western TV shows and movies. I don't like old westerns because at best they're boring, at worst they're overtly racist.
Which is how it was in real life.
How it was in real life. Well, that's I think modern day westerns. Like they've the early day westerns, it's like a fairy tale where everything's
Yeah.
like everybody's clean and it's like, oh, cowboys versus Indians and those Indians sure are bad. I feel like modern day westerns, everything is gray, which is how it should be. That's how the world was back then, in general lawlessness. And also I feel like just the representation of Native Americans has gotten a whole lot better when it comes to westerns. I don't have to say I think. It definitely has, because in the old days it was like, scrounge up any Mexicans or brown skinned people and they can probably be a Native American. Hell, just get Tommy over there, his white son of a bitch, and just put some paint on him and it'll be fine.
Nobody'll know.
John Wayne wants to play Genghis Khan.
Okay.
Just paint his face. It's fine. It's the 50s. Who cares? Nowadays, I don't think you could do that. You could try.
You can't say anything anymore.
That was kind of funny because I was watching this movie and it was, it's Johnny Depp, and then I need to look up this guy's name. It's Gary Farmer, who I've actually seen before in a quaint little movie called Smoke Screens. Very, very good. I think it's mostly Native American cast. It's a Native American movie. I saw it in my Native American Studies class that I took. That was anthropology. Very, very good. But yeah, it's him and Gary Farmer, who's a real Native American fella. And I'm like, isn't that funny that, 20 years after this movie came out, because Dead Man came out in 95, Johnny Depp would play a Native American man in a hit Disney movie in The Lone Ranger. Isn't that odd? Isn't that odd that Johnny Depp in this movie is like, there's a lot of like, you have the white man's metal in you. Like, there's a lot of like race stuff in it. It's just weird that later Johnny Depp is playing a Native American. Opposite, do you remember who played the Lone Ranger?
I have no idea.
That's right. It's Armie Hammer.
Oh.
It's an unproblematic movie. Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp
all
as
around.
Tonto.
They're like, we're going to play it safe, guys.
It's wild. That movie came out in 2013, I think.
God.
That's way too late. There's a reason that no one remembers that movie, except for me. I never
forget.
I never saw it, but it's just kind of wild. That
You know of it.
Oh yeah, of course I know of it. Oh wait, who's Gore Verbinski? Oh no, like man, man. Oh man, I like Gore Verbinski. He made Rango. How do you go from Rango to the Lone Ranger? That's sad. It's also the guy who made Pirates of the Caribbean, the first 3 movies.
Oh.
And The Ring. Man, this guy this guy is like pretty solid. I wonder what happened to him. Looks like he hasn't really done anything. Maybe the Lone Ranger killed his career.
Maybe.
Poor guy. That's unfortunate. But Yeah, watch Rango. Rango's good. Also watch Dead
Rango's
Man.
bomb.
I think they're both on Max, if I remember right. They're both westerns. Rango, legitimately a really good western.
Yeah.
I'm saying that unironically, as someone who really likes the genre. It's really good. Take
One of the
the
best animated movies ever, too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So good. I need to watch it again. I haven't seen it since we did our commentary track for it so many moons
True.
ago. But yeah. But no more westerns next week. We're doing post-apocalypto movies. We're watching Mad Max, Mad Max 2, and
Mad Max 3.
they didn't make well, they might have made a Mad Max 3. I don't know. The second one isn't even called Mad Max 2. It's called The Road Warrior.
Yeah, I suppose.
Mad Max 3. Oh yeah, it's Beyond Thunderdome.
Ooh.
I have not. That's not on the list. A Boy and His Dog is on the list because that one it takes place in 2024. So I thought it would be fun to do it this year. And they're all post-apocalyptic movies that take place in the desert because that's the marathon. That's the idea that I had.
These thumbnails have been a blast to make. I'm like, I just look up a picture of a desert.
Perfect. Yeah. Maybe next marathon I'll think of something better, but I was like,
no one else has ever done a desert marathon though, so
probably not. And the podcast that I'm basing this off of, they usually do like regions. So like they did an African movie cinema. I think they're getting ready to do an Iranian movie marathon, or they do like specific actors or directors. Like we're doing a whole thing on Ingrid Bergman or whatever artsy person that they're talking about. So I'm like, I'll do the same thing, except movies that take place in the desert because it's cold outside. And wouldn't it be nice to move to it? No, it wouldn't be nice to move to a desert. But maybe some of our audience would think so. I like the cold. I was going to do all movies that take place in the winter, but they're all scary movies or Christmas movies.
Or Fargo.
That's true. That's true. I could have just watched Fargo 3 times
Like
for
4 times,
weeks.
yeah.
That would have been fun. I love that movie. But yeah, that's next week, and then the week after is going on a trip week, which could have been this week's. But it's road trips. And so the schedule is in the description. It'll also have where you can find these movies. So if you want to watch along and hear my color commentary for the movies that you're watching throughout the week, then you can do that. And I can give spoilers. Like I'd spoiled both of these movies. And I wouldn't have done that otherwise. I might have. I don't know. But that's it. That's it for me. I'm going to throw it on over to James for his part of the show.
Yippee.
Yeah.
Big week. Big week.
Big week.
Big week.
Holy moly.
We got the smile. The grin even. That was the only album I listened to. Actually, I listened to the first song of a new album that came out, and then I stopped and said, no, we have to react to this on the channel. I'm stopping right now. So
okay.
I put a new category in our wheels where it's like albums that came out this year that we should listen to on video.
Okay.
So it's just MGMT in this thing. It's Tapir, The Pilgrim, Their God, and the King of My Decrepit Mountain.
Okay.
I listened to one song and it was fantastic. It is indie folk, a little bit indie rock in there. Remind me of the Microphones mixed with like a more traditional indie rock sound.
Okay.
And it sounded fantastic. So that's on the wheel now. So expect a video of that soon because, oh my God, this thing is going to be a blast.
Okay.
So that was a sleeper hit of the week. And as soon as I started listening to it, I'm like, I should stop. Because opportunity to do a new album, we should do more of those anyways.
Sure.
I'm doing it. But I guess we can dive into the smile. I don't think anything else came out this week that I listened to. I listened to the Bruiser Wolf album, I guess. That came out a couple weeks ago. Yeah, on the 12th. So I listened to the Bruiser Wolf's album. My Story Got Stories. Pretty decent. It's not anything crazy. I was curious to see how he would do on a solo record, since he is kind of a more comedic punchline style rapper with a very silly voice. I was wondering how that would translate to a full record, and he actually did it pretty well. Production on this thing is pretty good. I like a lot of these beats. Yeah, it's a little bit hit or miss. There's a little bit of run there where I'm like, eh, but there are definitely some tracks where it's like, okay, it's funny. It's got a good storyline to it. It's punchy. I don't know if it's something I'd go back to a whole lot. It's kind of, I don't know. It's very specific. It's very like zany and left field, but also like very gritty gangster rap, but by a guy who sounds like he should be doing a tight five. It's very interesting. But yeah, check it out if that sounds any any excitement that comes from that. It's good. It's just not something I'm gonna really go back to, and not something I'm really gonna blast on my playlist and repeat. But still kind of impressive. All right, The Smile, new album, Wall of Eyes. This was a very unconventional first listen. We were in a record shop and they were playing it very loud. So
That was the first time you heard
spoiled.
it.
I was getting spoiled. But the sound system in that shop was really good, so I'm not even mad at it. Yeah, this is the second record from The Smile. If you still don't know who The Smile are, it's Tom York, Johnny
Radiohead.
Greenwood from Radiohead, pairing up with Tom Skinner, who I believe is more of like a jazz drummer musician, from Sons of Kemet, which is an insane jazz trio, I believe. Yeah, they're crazy. So you got these three dudes coming together. They made their debut, A Light for Attracting Attention, in 2022. That record was really solid. But I think halfway listening through this one, I mean, even in the record store, I think I said, this is already better than the first album. And I definitely stand by that. I feel like the first record, they were trying to find their footing, and I felt like a lot of it was either leftover Radiohead material that they couldn't find a place for, or leftover Tom York songs that they wanted to kind of mesh into this new band. I am honestly surprised we got a second album so soon. I'm surprised we got a second album at all. I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes with these side projects, it's like more of just a let's get this out of our system and we'll continue on. But I'm glad they stuck to it, because this is what happens when like you really do commit to it, because you come up with something just absolutely phenomenal. A lot of changes on this one. This is maybe the record where they earned their name, The Smile, and you can ditch the Radiohead light nonsense, because this does not sound like Radiohead, and that's the biggest compliment I can give it. I feel like that was Tom and Johnny's mission specifically for this album: is how can we do what we want to do? Like, we're getting rid of Ed O'Brien and we're getting rid of the rest of the band members of Radiohead. What is our artistic vision that we want to do? And it turned out very different than what you'd hear in a Radiohead record. On top of that, Nigel Godrich did not produce this record. Nigel Godrich has produced every single Radiohead record, I believe. Apparently, he produced the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack too. I'm just seeing that,
Oh,
which is interesting. But he's done most of Tom's solo work and all of Radiohead's catalog. And he is not the producer of this new album. The new producer is Sam Petz Davies, who has production credits on one of Tom's records. It's actually the Suspiria soundtrack. But new engineer, new producer. And you can definitely tell. I feel like Nigel Godrich has a sound where it's like, okay, he knows how to work with the guys from Radiohead. He's done it for decades. You get a new guy in here, you get some new sounds, and it's going to come out very different than what we've done in the past. I think the two singles we first got were Bending Hectic and then Wall of Eyes. I gave a big glowing review to Bending Hectic when I talked about that when it came out. Still think that's one of the best songs on the record. Very kind of not taking inspiration, but kind of riding off that wave of kind of Black Country New Road esque, really long, drug out art rock pieces. And they do it in a way that's just phenomenal. I will say Tom's voice has aged so well. He must have done like an incredible job of keeping his voice intact through all the decades of touring and albums and stuff, because his voice still sounds so incredibly clean. I feel like a lot of rock stars from the 80s and 90s, like their voices just get shot.
Yeah.
And this man's 55 and is pulling out new things I haven't heard from him yet. His low end's fantastic. He can still hit that falsetto perfectly. But there's like a really nice, like warm timbre to it. I think part of that is the engineering. And they also put like a ton of reverb on him. I think that's the biggest difference from him in Radiohead and his solo work, and then him on the Smile. He really lets that reverb sit, and it sounds like he's just in like a church. And it really works well with this kind of. It's kind of ambient, it's kind of spacey, but at the same time, there's some really, really, really good rhythms and art rock coming together here. I mean, Wall of Eyes is like surprisingly jazzy. However low key it is, it's a super low key opener. You get this kind of like ukulele almost. It's really great. A lot of these songs take their time to develop. It's 8 songs in 45 minutes. 4.5 minute being the shortest song, which I think is fantastic. They're letting these songs breathe and develop, and they are definitely developing. I think the art rock and a lot of krautrock in this comes from like being able to develop these rhythms, and you get this really cool, hypnotizing, relaxing, sedated effect. If you've ever seen Tom York perform, he kind of dances like he's just like having an aneurysm. He kind of just lets his body go wherever. And I feel like they actually achieved the effect on this, because it's like this is danceable music, but there's no way to dance to it in a way that doesn't make you look like an absolute freak. And I love that. These rhythms are so unique and foreign and abstract, but they hit so good. It's something you can sit back and relax to. At the same time, there's like your brain is actively working and falling into these kind of hypnotic rhythms. Teleharmonic is just, oh, I don't know how they do this far out. I mean, like Tom and Johnny are just, they never stop. They've never stopped since Radiohead like really took off. The experimenting, the differentiation. I don't know how they even like come up with these new ideas and stuff, but just the low end on this record, I think, has improved so much from the first record. Tom playing the bass on this thing is fantastic. They're playing a lot more with like again reverb. There's this weird low end electronic part on Teleharmonic that blends perfectly with the song. Oh, and then you get Read the Room, which starts in like this 11/8 time signature with this really just like pedaled out guitar that they used on the first record as well. And it's the more like it's probably the most straightforward rock cut on the record, but at the same time, I said straightforward rock cut, and it's an 11/8. It becomes really just like dizzying. There's a little bit of like a sinister undertone to a lot of this record, but it's very kind of peaceful and relaxing at the same time. I feel like these two are just so well trained in music, but at the same time have this really cool abstract edge to them, where they're just really just bending sound in ways that you would not, even think of. I mean, you get Under the Pillows after that, which again uses a really, really weird guitar effect that they used a lot on the first record, which I wasn't actually a huge fan of. But it serves its purpose here. You get this kind of like spike of texture before the song, like, I don't even know what the song is. It's a 6 minute cut that starts like a rock song. Vocals start coming in, the beat starts getting more wobbly, and then all of a sudden it falls into a more ambient piece. And then it goes full krautrock at the end. You get this really kind of sinister bass tone that comes in, and it really builds this harmony. It reminds me of whatever that song was on Moonshaped Pool that I really like. I know Tom like loves krautrock, so I'm glad that's coming in, and I need to check out like Can and Faust and all those great artists that kind of made krautrock what it is, to really like understand that more. But I'm loving what I'm hearing on that. I think "Friend of a Friend" was the third single that I didn't listen to. Again, deceivingly simple. This sounds like a ballad. It's really interesting because it's got like this really nice kind of cheery tone to it, but it's a Radiohead Tom production, so that means it's going to be sad and like weird and confusing. He switches between like major and minor keys like all over the place. I watched the music video for it because I always assumed Tom was on the piano, but you got Johnny on piano and you got Tom on the bass, which is really bizarre, but I think it works really well with the song. I just always imagined Tom would be the one playing keys since he has so much experience with it. But I think if you're not into the super like abstract stuff, like "Friend of a Friend" is going to be your jam. And even for me, that's someone that like doesn't like the more straightforward stuff. This is still like gorgeous. His vocals carry this track, and they're so beautiful still. And then the last three tracks are the ones that I heard in the record store. "I Quit" is fantastic. Again, incredibly dissonant. You got some really weird electronic effects happening to create this really nice polyrhythm on the track. Really drawn out vocal melodies, and then you get these introductions of like crazy string sections. Just a trip. "Bending Hectic" already talked about. Phenomenal song. All about the build on there, but the guitar playing and the intimacy of all that, and the lyrical content of it is just a masterpiece of a song. And then you got the last track, "You Know Me," which is a really good closer. I had to come around to this one a little bit. I was a little bit like, okay, I didn't really get it for a while. But really strong piano ballad with some more of that string section. I feel like this is the only song I really understood lyrically. I have not been paying attention to lyrics at all because I just can't get over the soundscape of this record yet. But I think this one's just kind of going over like he doesn't want to box himself in a corner, which is really funny because he's 55 and has done it all. But it's like he wants to break away from this like Radiohead light kind of that attachment that's going to be with him forever. And he's trying to kind of create something different. And I feel like this is the album that did it because this is not Radiohead anymore. And I think that's great. I feel like you can literally like come to peace with Radiohead being done, if it is truly done. Like I don't think I need another Radiohead project if Tom and Johnny are just gonna do this in their side project because this is like, well, it's not better than most Radiohead records, maybe one or two, but it's something different and it's something like I don't think you can get as creatively different as this with that huge attachment of the name Radiohead. I think when you have the like the name of one of the biggest bands on earth, it does kind of pigeonhole you in a way. I think them breaking free from just that name lets them to like really explore these sounds. But yeah, this thing just turns out beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's mesmerizing. It's addicting. I feel like we really get some kind of Tom's solo work where he plays more with electronics and space. And then you get Johnny's like absolutely madman style of being able to play any instrument in any time signature like flawlessly. Both of them have been doing a lot of movie soundtracks too, which you can hear in here. And you pair him up with like a jazz drummer. Like the drummer on Radiohead is not bad at all, but like I feel so bad for the Smiles drummer because like you have these two maniacs playing an 11/8 on an ambient song, and you're like, can you play with that? And he's like, sure. It's like we could use a drum machine, but the live drummer just makes it so much better. But so yeah, it's a whole bunch of old dudes who are incredibly proficient in their craft, making some really, really, really fantastic music. So top of the year. I feel like this is the first like fantastic record of the year, and one that's gonna have to get shaken by something pretty monumental if it wants to top it. I know the MGMT record's coming out, and the singles from that have been really great. So looking forward to that one. That new record I just talked about that we'll be doing on the channel. That I like the sound of that one. So we'll see whenever we do that. But yeah, I think Wall of Eyes has cemented itself at the top of my list firmly for now. But yeah, check it out. It's amazing. Yeah, I think that's it. We got the main channel coming back this week.
Really?
So you'll have a video in your inbox next week.
What?
We're doing it. It's been a month.
I don't believe it.
It's time. I'm ready. I was not focused on it for a while because I had to move and everything. So I was just like
Yes.
kind of doing it. Now I'm ready to get back and actually talk. So,
We haven't been talking so far.
no, I just been mumbling. But yeah, I'm excited to come back and do that. We're going to try to change some things up. We want to do more bad albums this year because those are always the most fun videos to make.
Just finding them is the trick.
Yeah.
Finding
I know
specific ones.
I know Cemetery just released a single like 2 weeks ago. So
Oh, no.
if there's a new Cemetery album, we're doing the new Cemetery
Oh,
album.
rats.
And if he doesn't release a new album, I'm going to do the last album he released last year. So we'll get some more Cemetery this year. Don't you worry.
Oh, boy.
But I know someone, or a couple people recommended LCD Sound System, so I put one of their records on the wheel.
Okay.
Yeah, so good stuff coming. We want to mix it up a little bit. I love doing the classic album reviews, but I want to mix in some more fun, lighthearted, or like less heady stuff. There's a lot of connotations when you gotta like review a classic album for the first time. It's not exactly pressure, but there's a certain like if you're not getting it, there's a certain like
Yeah,
So
that is true.
we'll do some more silly stuff this year. I want to do some more silly stuff.
Yeah, it's just like when it comes to like bad albums to review, it's tough to find ones that are reaction worthy because
Yes.
like we could review any Nickelback album and that would be rough, but it's like that's not fun.
It's not the Corey Feldman.
No, it's no Corey Feldman, which we
Yeah.
theoretically there's 2 other records.
There are, but they don't get talked about nearly as much. So I don't know if something just went like so bad with the new one, or not the new one, but the latest one. I'm sure it was just the fact that like it was just like really entertaining. But
Yeah, I did see that he remixed his first record recently in 2022,
interesting.
which if you look at the cover for it, I think it might be his Black Lives Matter release. Because there's a black guy holding a "I can't breathe" sign and a cop
I see that.
pointing his gun, and then there's like the 2 yellow lines in his sunglasses, which I don't know if that's like the street lines, because that's also like the Black Lives Matter thing with the blue background and the 2 yellow equal sign.
Interesting.
So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
He's an interesting man.
He is. He is. I need to know more about him.
Yeah.
Like I know the early stuff and I know where he is at now, but there's this giant gap of time where I don't know how we got here. Cuz it's like Goonies and like that era and like Stand By Me and even Friday the 13th 4, like he's just a kid, but now he's just like what happened? What happened, Corey? I need to know.
What happened, Corey?
I need to know Corey Feldman. Also drop a new album.
Yes, please.
I know you usually take 10 years, but well, actually, we're coming up on 10 years on Angelic to the Core. So
He's got to release a 10th anniversary edition. It deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. Just don't change the cover at all.
Yes.
That's the best part.
We could do the new Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro song.
We don't react to songs.
Exactly. And we're not going to start now, unless it's a best songs video.
Like how Ben Shapiro now has a Spotify page.
That's awesome.
There's a Ben Shapiro radio. Eminem is on it.
Of course.
I don't know what that says about anything.
It says a lot about something, but I'm not sure what.
Yeah. NF, Tech 9,
You.
Jelly Roll.
Well, they did a good job, at least with the recommended artists. They know how annoying it is.
Yeah. Even though he has 0 monthly listeners.
Good.
Interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we need some bad funny albums. So if anybody has any recommendations for that,
yeah, let us know. I was looking at like redoing some of mine, and I've added a lot of stuff
hmm
to my wheel. And I recently got rid of the Victoria Monet Jaguar, and then I listened to Jaguar 2 and added it. That came out end of last year.
uh,
So I'm like, yeah, do I really? Jaguar is so short. It's 25 minutes, and there's a lot of like interludes. I'm like, that, I don't know if that's really gonna be good. But the new one that just came out, it feels like a more fleshed out album, and I think it's better, anyways. So I'm like, okay, that's getting added.
let's
But
do it.
I'm excited. It's good R&B. So
Yes, sir.
we'll always like that. One of our one of the genres we go to a lot on the channel for some reason.
Yes. It interests me because I don't. It's a big blind spot.
That's
No
fair.
matter how much we get yelled at, I'm gonna keep doing it.
I like a very specific kind of R&B. But
I'm just trying to get a feel for the genre.
that's fair.
Maybe doing the best R&B albums ever made constantly without any context for the era is a bad idea, but I'm gonna do it
Maybe.
anyways.
I don't know what else we would do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's hard because I'm discovering music through a reaction channel, but I have to like react to things that'll get views. So most often, that's like the most popular / most acclaimed one.
Yeah.
It's a little
It's
hard
tough.
to balance.
It's
That's
tough.
Then I was also thinking like we should like take off everything on our list that like anything that on my list that I've already listened to, and we should do a separate thing for that, which is like originally what the show
That's what I
was
was
at the
gonna
very
say.
beginning.
Yeah.
Which like I miss doing that because I don't get to show you things anymore. I'm just listening to stuff I haven't heard.
See, that's what I do all the time. Like I
And
feel
then
like
you
I
do
should.
that still all the time. So it's like
Yeah. I mean, was
it's
our
like
last
should we
one pure
split that into
comedy?
something else? Yeah, it was.
Like that's like, but that's me though. Like that's who I
No,
am
yeah.
as a person. Like I love showing people movies and TV shows that I've already watched and watching it with people and listening to music with people.
And that's my issue because I want to listen to new music all the time, but I
Sure.
also want to show you things. So it's like very difficult
That is the trick.
because it's like there's no way I'm going to pick an album I already listened to over like Portishead that I've been dying to listen to.
Sure. Yeah.
Although there is this Tapir album that I want to like react to. There's also this Lemon Twigs album. I don't know if you know anything about this.
I don't know anything about lemon twigs.
So Lemon Twigs released an album last year that is pure soft rock, and people went crazy for it.
Ooh,
It's so out of place, but everybody loved it, and I'm like dying to listen to it. So that's
Really?
also on my wheel.
I love soft rock.
Yes, I know.
Okay, okay, I'm down for that. Yeah, I added. What did I add? I added Runner. I like Runner quite a bit. Runner. I think that
Oh,
album,
Runner, yeah.
Runner with three
Yeah.
N's,
Yes.
has might have my favorite song of all time. They made Your Name on a Grain of Rice, which for my money is probably my favorite song. It's not the best song. That's a very important distinction.
I
Because
think I've heard a couple Runner songs.
maybe. I know I've probably put some of them on our playlist, but Always Repeating, which is the album that came out in 2021, I don't like that album at all. Even though it has Your Name on a Grain of Rice on it. I don't like that album at all.
I'll take the song. Don't need the album.
I really, yeah, I do not like that album. And I think it is like, it's the first record, and I think most of it is an EP that released earlier. So, like, it doesn't really feel like a record. But then the one that came out last year, like Dying Stars Were Reaching Out, is really, really solid. So I added that one. I added Slow Pulp. I've been getting into them. And I heard a couple songs off of the Kara Jackson, Why Does the Earth Give Us People to Love? I think that came out last year. Do you know anything about this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I have not listened to it, but I want to.
I listened to a couple songs and I really, really liked it. So, like, that could be a fun one. So, I have a lot of new stuff.
That was on my list for last year that I didn't get to.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect.
I might just make a separate list for stuff I can show you. Because
Okay.
on our last video, it's like people were like, you should do Godspeed. And I'm like, I've listened to all these, but I'd love to do a video on it. Or you should do these 2 Talk albums. I'm like, I also love those, but I'd love to do a video on it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I might just do another section for it and then slot those in eventually.
That could
I have
be
too many things I want to listen to. That's my issue.
Yeah, and only so much time. If we're making one video a week, which we can't do.
We can't do more than one. It's insane.
No, I mean theoretically we could, but I don't think either of us have the time for that.
It'd be miserable. We would the quality of the videos would just like start dipping.
We would have to hire an editor.
Yes, which I'm not doing.
I don't have the cash. I couldn't even afford to rent El Topo, so I'm definitely not paying someone to edit for us. But yeah, it's a lot of new stuff. These are albums that came out last year, that I missed. So I wanted to get through some of those.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Main channel. There's a lot of changes coming.
Oh boy.
You'll have new graphics and overlays and stuff.
It's gonna
one
feel
of us is bald.
new.
I won't tell you which one of us is bald.
Oh,
but one of
yeah.
us is bald. Find out who in the next video.
It's gonna be a surprise.
It's gonna be a surprise.
Yeah, I didn't think I would have that we would have to announce that.
No,
But-
yeah, it's just a new thing.
It is a new
along with all the newness, you know.
It is a new thing, I suppose. Let's just say that one of us has been going through some sort of a breakdown mentally. A la Lindsay Lohan.
Allah would never have a breakdown.
I know. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to being back. I've been wanting to do our main channel for a long time. I've been ready, so I'm excited to do
I am not
Gummo by Portishead.
Gummo by Portishead.
Is it Dummy? Is that what it's called?
It's dummy.
Okay. I just love.
I always forget the name of it.
Yeah, I know we're doing Portishead. I'm
Like the purple Portishead album.
yeah,
That one.
no one.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
me too.
So
So stay tuned.
yes,
That's your behind the scenes update. If you're a podcast listener, you kind of know the inner workings of what's changing. So
that's the point.
it's the perks.
Yeah, that's why you listen to the podcast all the way to the end
Yes.
on this shorter
During
episode.
our weird rambly session that happens every week.
I think it's the best part of the show.
Me too. Usually podcasts do that at the beginning of the show. I guess some podcasts do it at the beginning and the end.
Why not?
We're
both?
business up front, party in the back, you know.
But yeah. Well, I usually have things at the beginning. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
true.
these are the notes I want to hit. These are the things I want to talk about. And then at the end, when we're all done with that, it feels like, okay, well, I don't have to stick to a script.
Exactly.
Not that I'm hitting a script normally. Otherwise, I'd be doing a terrible job.
Yeah.
Terrible, right?
You guys better like these new overlays. They're clean.
I haven't even seen them, and I
I'm
like
looking
them.
at it right now. And ooh. This is gonna be so much easier for me to make.
Well, I'm glad. I don't know what they look like, but
Awesome.
I will see once the video
Soon.
comes out, and later, once I edit a video in time,
Eventually.
eventually. But I think that'll do it for the podcast, I guess.
I think so.
I think that's it. That's all I've been watching and listening to. Watch Mad Max if you want to, or don't. I don't know.
I'm not your dad.
I'm not your dad. I also don't know enough about Mad Max to know if you can just go to the second one, or if you have to watch all three of them in a row. I mean, I just went straight to Fury Road, so I know that's fine. You can do that. Don't have to see any of the movies to go to Fury Road, but I don't know about the old ones. Bye.